How about if I just start at the beginning? You could be honest.
Because you know what? They have the sweat equity that went into that memory that they're making with their friends and family. And that's what's important with this. And that's what the I Am Real world's about.
Well, that's a great question. You know, one of the best things about a spring food plot is you get a second chance if it fails.
Chasing Giants with Don Higgins. Brought to you by buyafarm.com, your source for farm, recreational properties, rural homes, and more. By tapping into Don's years of experience, dedication, and commitment, Chasing Giants focuses on the techniques, strategies, and dedication needed to harvest one of God's most amazing creations, world-class whitetails. Now, here is Don and co-host Terry Peer.
Well, welcome everyone to Chasing Giants with Don Higgins, brought to you by buyafarm.com. This is episode 42. I'm Terry Peer. It's December 13th, and Don's on the line. How you doing tonight, Don?
I'm great, Terry. How are you?
I'm doing really good. It seems surreal that we're at episode 42. We're a little bit over a year into this venture that you and I started. This idea was yours, and you came to me, I guess the summer of 19, and we started working on this idea. And for those who don't follow my social media post, we're actually trending in the top 20 consistently now with all podcasts that are in our category on Apple Podcasts. That's pretty unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah, and especially when you look at that list and you see who we've surpassed. And I mean some people that I really respect and look up to, and podcasts I've been on, podcasts I listen to. And, somehow we're shooting our way towards the top. We're not number one by any means yet, but,
right. Well, I haven't even,
we're in the right direction.
I kind of only texted you. I don't know. I can't remember if I called you or texted you when I found this out, but, the category that we're trending in, for everybody listening to understand, Apple Podcasts is the only one that we can see that type of trending data from. And that makes up about 65% of our listeners, because the Higgins or Chasing Giants with Higgins Outdoors YouTube channel, a lot of people are listening there, and that data doesn't come into play with this. But the category that we're in is called wilderness. So all the hunting stuff, the survivalist, I think there's even a podcast about Bigfoot in the top 20 also. So inside of that category, for basically the month of November, we've been in the top 20, and we've peaked out as high as 10, which is awesome. But the thing I didn't tell you, Don, is when you back out from that subcategory into all of sports, so everything, basketball, baseball, golf, all of the podcasts that are out there, we're right around 100, which is crazy. That's phenomenal, and it's just a tribute and sincere thanks to all of our listeners that are out there. You guys have been awesome and really taken us as part of your Sunday night and Monday morning kind of commute. So we really appreciate you listening and supporting us.
Yeah, we sure do. So thanks, everyone. And, I knew he was gaining some traction, Terry, just by the number of messages that we get and the number of submitted questions to the podcast.
Right.
It's really increased in the last month or two.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because something's really bothered me over the last week. And I want our listeners to know that I read every review that people leave, good or bad. I read every message that comes in, and Don and I both go back and listen to the podcast after we publish it. We want to try to get better too, and neither one of us have had any training in this. We just come on and talk from the heart and about what's going on. So we're trying to get better also. But one of the things that really bothered me after the last episode is we were talking about how we can't keep up with messages, and saying that a lot of people want to have longer dialogues with us, and that's really hard. By no means do I want to come across as we don't want people to contact us. Our listeners and that engagement and that dialogue back and forth is what makes this podcast so special, especially with these questions that listeners submit. And the last thing I wanted to do in the last episode is come across like we don't want you to send messages. I actually had 2 messages come in this week that the first sentence started was, I know you don't want people to send you messages, and I apologize for that. That's definitely not what I meant. We were just trying to apologize if it took longer to get back with you, or sometimes we were short because we might have 5 or 6 to 10 of these conversations going on literally at the same time. So I felt really bad after going back and listening to that podcast.
Yeah, and I haven't even been on Facebook to check my messages for like 3 or 4 days, so I know I've got a bunch of messages waiting for me there. And a lot of times, well, here recently, a lot of the messages I respond to, it's very brief answers. And folks, I'm not trying to be rude, I promise. I appreciate your support more than you know, but when you're getting 200 to 250 a day and you want to respond to everybody, I don't want anyone to ever think that I think I'm better than them, because I certainly don't. And I appreciate the messages and want to answer them all. It's just getting about to the limit of what I can handle. And, I'm going to try when we get done recording this podcast. I plan to go get on Facebook and hopefully be able to get caught up tonight.
Well,
so.
I'm gonna give our listeners a little bit of insight too that you're gonna chuckle at. And Don, when I first met Don, was not, let's just say, the most technologically advanced person in the world.
Still not.
So everybody's got to realize too that Don is in consulting season. So when it's hunting season, there's middle of the day that he can get out his phone, and he doesn't type real fast with his thumbs, but I will say you are getting a whole lot better at your texting and phone typing speed. But when you're driving to Kansas, I know you were in Kentucky last week, earlier this week, and when you're on the road that much, and you have very limited time, especially until you get to the hotel, that's part of the reason in what we're talking about. So please, from the bottom of Don's heart and my heart, don't think that we don't want those messages or we don't want that positive feedback or negative feedback, whatever you want to send. We read it all, we listen to it, and I've talked to a few people that have really big YouTube channels and on social media, and they say that's the hardest part of once you get to a certain size is you can't have that interaction and answer to everything. And I hope we don't get to that point, but we do appreciate the feedback. The podcast is just, it's going crazy. Your Mel video is, I think, pushing over 350,000 views. It's really taken off, and we really appreciate that.
Yeah, and another, I guess, way that we know that we're gaining in popularity is the sponsorship opportunities that have been presented to us. And
yep.
And companies that we have no relationship with whatsoever.
Never even knew they existed. Some of them we do.
Yeah.
But they're reaching out wanting to be part of it and sponsoring us. We've been asked for media kits and plans for next year, and we're just handling that a little bit differently, aren't we?
Well, yeah, we're never going to promote a product that we don't believe in. If we've never used it, we're not going to just take someone as a sponsor or some company as a sponsor just because they're offering us money or whatever. We've got integrity. We want to be different than any other podcast, any other YouTube channel, any other person or people in the hunting industry. Our integrity is important with us or to us. Our opinions may be different than yours, but that doesn't mean we don't respect your opinion and your right to have a different opinion. And so if you see us being sponsored by a particular company or product, you can rest assured it's a product that we believe in.
Yeah, and we would be buying it whether we were sponsored by them or not. But I see a different side of that with the real world side, because I see how many people just jump around, and people that what I would call the medium tier guys, the guys who have really good shows or really good platforms. One year they're shooting this bow, then this bow, and then this bow, and it's just a constant rotation. And you can't tell me that part of that isn't just going to the next highest bidder. And I understand when you're trying to run it as a business that you have to make business decisions, but this podcast is not about running a business. This podcast is trying to help people get to meet their goals and objectives in the deer woods. And you made a comment, and I don't even know that I think it was in an email that you sent to me and maybe Steve earlier this week, and I'll let you say it, but I don't even think that you put that much thought into it. It's just your natural belief about what we're really about.
That we want to represent the hunting community, not the hunting industry.
Yeah, we're here to serve the hunting community, not the hunting industry. So obviously, if it's a company we believe in, we'll partner with them and help bring that advantage or that product and knowledge to our listeners. But for the sake of just having a relationship, it's not what we're about. So.
Yep, for sure.
So you kind of, speaking of that a little bit, you kind of ruffled some feathers and got some good dialogue going on social media today.
Yeah, one of our listeners sent me a photo of, he had a handful of expandable broadheads or mechanical broadheads, whichever you want to call them, and his comment was that went with the photo he sent was, throwing them in the trash. Thanks for the advice. And I asked him if I could share that photo, and he said I could, so I did. And boy, people got fired up. It was pretty funny, really. But one thing that I want to clear up is why would I do that? Why would I go out on a limb and make such a post? And there's two reasons, really. One, like Terry just said, we are here to help people. And, I think with 40 plus years, probably pushing 45 years of bow hunting experience, I think I've learned some lessons the hard way that I would like to save the rest of you. I've never shot mechanical or expandable broadheads and never will. I think they're a chance that does not need to be taken. They just, I don't want to see you lose the buck of your life because you shot him with a mechanical head and then couldn't find him or just wounded him and didn't even kill him. So, from an aspect of trying to help you, the listener, from losing that buck of your dreams, I've never heard anyone shoot a deer with a regular broadhead, if you will, and say, I wish I'd been shooting a mechanical. But you swap that around vice versa. I've heard a lot of people who have shot a buck, and many times it's the buck of their lifetime, or at least that's how it's described. And with a mechanical broadhead, and lose that deer and say, I'll never shoot them things again. I wish I was using a regular broadhead. It just never goes the other way. So I don't want to see people lose deer. The second thing is they wound more deer than a regular broadhead. And I don't care. Maybe your opinion's different than mine, but I believe that to be the case. I think we owe the animals we hunt the utmost respect. Sure, we're going to shoot them, we're going to kill them, we're going to take their life, but we need to do it as quickly and as humanely as possible. And I don't think, in my opinion, an expandable broadhead is the way to do that. Now, with that said, I do not look down on people who shoot expandable broadheads. In fact, in the last 30 days, I have had multiple people on my farm sitting with me in the same blind or in tree stands in the same tree that used them. Yep. And I never said a word to those people. I never looked down on them. I never spoke down on them. I respected them. So I can respect your opinion if it differs in mine. But my opinion was developed over a long period of time, and I'm trying to save you from losing the buck of your dreams.
So if people go back and listen to episodes, they'll remember that you tried to, I don't want to say you danced this, but you didn't give your opinion as firm as I knew you believed, and I challenged you on that. And the next episode, you come out and laid it out. And, I've even been questioned because people who know me know that I did shoot mechanicals out of a crossbow. I don't even remember when the last time, if I ever, hunted with a mechanical out of a compound. I mean, it's been so long. If I would have done it, I mean, we're talking 15, 16, 17 years ago. But I'm the one that challenged you on it, and we even have a difference in opinion of it. And if people think that, you and I don't even agree on everything. And you've never even once you've stated your opinion to me, but you've never once shown me a disrespect or anything like that because of what my opinion on this, or maybe feeders or anything else that we differ on opinions of. I'm definitely not considered the yes man in our relationship. If people knew how much we disagreed on different things that we talk about every week, they'd laugh.
Well, actually, the whole reason that I asked you, Terry, to be the co-host on this podcast was because you was the one friend that would hold my feet to the fire, and you wouldn't be just a bobblehead, shaking your head up and down every time I said something. If you had a difference of opinion, you was going to bring it, and that's what I wanted. I didn't want this, it's Don's way or no way. I wanted various opinions to be heard, and I want to be challenged. If your opinion is different than mine, throw it out there. Let's debate it.
Well, that's even a good point. That's a good point, because I guess I wouldn't say I'm on the fence, but I'm not as. There's certain situations where I don't personally use them anymore, but there's certain situations where I don't have a problem if somebody uses one. So I got a foot kind of in each side. So here's the deal. This is an idea. And I think you challenged somebody, and I didn't read all the comments on your social media this afternoon. I was busy. But you actually challenged a guy to debate you. If our listeners want to hear this kind of true debate, how about we run a poll on your Higgins Outdoors Instagram page this week, and we'll try to do it like on Tuesday or Wednesday. I'll have to look at your analytics of when you have the most engagement. But in the story of Don's Instagram, I'm going to post a picture. Maybe we'll even use the picture of those broadheads going in the trash. And you decide, do you want to hear Don debate somebody who wants to step up and debate him on mechanical broadheads or not? If our listeners don't want to listen to that and they want to move on to the next topic, we'll keep moving on to the next topic. If you all want to dive into, and I'll moderate it, because we'll go into different specific shots and what you and the other person think is the advantage of which head, and we'll truly debate this in an organized manner. If our listeners want to hear it, we'll do a poll this week, and you guys decide. That'll give us some content that maybe we can use, say, like in February when things are a little bit slower. How about that?
That's a great idea. And if someone is up for coming on to debate, I just want to assure you that whoever it is will be treated with the utmost respect. And it's not like we're going to belittle anyone on here. As Christians, we're going to treat everyone the way we want to be treated. So don't think that we're going to bring somebody on and rake them over the coals and go back and edit the audio.
I'll keep it honest. Don't worry.
Yeah.
It won't turn emotional. We're here to help people. So, as our listeners, all of you all listening, you guys get to make the decision on this, because if the majority of our listeners wants to move on and let's talk about different habitat stuff, great. If you guys want to dive into this really deep and truly understand it, we'll do this poll. You all make the call. We'll go with majority wins on this one. So watch Don Higgins, or excuse me, what's the name of your Instagram is at Higgins Outdoors. Higgins Outdoors on Instagram. I'll probably have to show Don how to do the poll, but that's okay.
No doubt about it.
And then maybe I'll run it on mine and yours, and then we'll tally the two, but the post will be the same. No, let's just do it on one. That way people can't vote twice. It'll just be on Higgins Outdoors. So this is kind of a last-minute idea we throwing out there, but we want to do what you guys want to do and how we can help you learn. So before we move on, we're going to bounce around quite a bit tonight, but give everybody a quick update on master classes, because the amount of deposits and RSVPs for this has gone crazy the last week.
Yeah, so there's 3 master courses that are March 13th, 20th, and 27th. The March 13th class is full. The March 20th class is probably 3/4 full, and the 27th class is about half full. There's a limit of 20 students on each one. If everybody is going to mail a check that said they are, there's going to be very few openings. So if any of the listeners, were planning on attending those courses, I just want them to know that they need to get a check in, a deposit to hold their spot here pretty quick. And the film school that we just, we had Steve Shields on a couple episodes ago and talked about the film school. We have already got students in both those classes. We got a May class and an August class, and I already got people that have sent in deposits to attend both of those. So I expect those to be full as well.
And let me add something on that. This isn't just for guys who want to start getting into filming their own hunts. This is going to apply to any photography, any video. If you want to be a social influencer, as they say, and learn how to create the content that sets you apart from somebody different, this is the class. So as I review, I can't even tell you how many applications I've received for Real World Pro staff since the new website uploaded. It's all an automated system now. I can't tell you how many. The first thing I do is go to their social media pages and look at their content to see what sets them apart, because companies only have so much to invest in this. So I just want everyone to realize that, this class is more than just people who want to do production. So go check it out. If you want to be one of the social influencers, please reach out to Don or Steve. It'll be a great class.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you want to see a sample of Steve's work, just watch the Mel video that he produced. And he's top notch. He's produced hunting shows for several different people in the hunting industry. So he definitely knows what he's talking about.
Well, let's switch gears right now to I won't lie. I might sound a little flustered, and my blood pressure just went off because we were sitting here talking, I pulled up. I got an alert on my cell cam, and the stupid cows are in my food plot again.
Uh-oh. This ain't going to be good for somebody.
I wish I would have gone muzzleloader hunting tonight, because it was there during daylight hours. I shouldn't say that on the air, but all the cows have been sold except for 2, and both of them are sitting in the food plot right now. So I'll have a couple phone calls to make after we're done. But let's talk a little bit about hunting season right now. I am more discouraged right now about the time of year than I have been. I haven't had a daylight picture of a buck in 2 states on I don't know how many cameras in about 10 days. And I'm hoping that with the temperature dropping rapidly the next couple nights that it gets those deer on their feet. I right now do not have a buck that I've gotten a picture of within the last 10 days that I'm willing to shoot.
Well, for those folks that are still hunting, the best thing that could happen for you guys right now is a brutal cold front to come through with a bunch of snow. If we'd have one of those winter storms come through and, dump a few inches of snow and temperatures get down to single digits at night or even lower and stay below freezing during the day, that would do wonders for the deer movement. For me, I filled both of my buck tags in Illinois, so I've been traveling around doing these consulting visits. Was in Kentucky for 5 days this past week, and we'll be in I've got one here local tomorrow morning, and then Indiana the next day. Then I'm headed west to Kansas. So I'm making the rounds. Spent some time in your home state this week, Terry.
Yeah, you got to meet a bunch of friendly people in the state of Kentucky. How about that?
You know what? I did tell Terry that I met some of the greatest people that week. There was a young couple lived right on the Ohio River. They was actually on the Ohio side. It was the only one I did in Ohio. But 27 years old, this young couple has a property that they want to set up for deer hunting so they can share it with other people. Handicapped people, kids that don't have other hunting opportunities, and just a great couple that really raised my spirits, if you will, because you don't see a lot of people their age with their priorities in the right order, and this young couple certainly did. I met a gentleman that was an immigrant from Brazil, actually came to the United States in his early 20s, could not speak a lick of English. Met an American girl, went to school, got a degree, started a company in the Silicon Valley back in the 90s. The gentleman's almost 50 years old today, but listen to his story. It was just the epitome of the American dream, rags to riches, if you will. Left his entire family behind in Brazil, came here, met this young lady. They're still married to this day, have 2 kids, very successful, both him and his wife. It was just a joy to spend the day with him, listening to his stories. And I told the guy he needs to get into politics because he's got charisma, good looking guy, but he's got the story. More than anything, he's got the story, rags to riches. And he was just telling me how great the United States is, and that what he was able to do, he could do nowhere else on earth. And then all the other people I met, every story is different, but these people are just so fantastic, and they just treat me so well, and I just, I wouldn't trade what I do for anything.
Yep. And people asked if we were together. I did see you in passing one day. We met. You were most of the time over in Eastern Kentucky, and then your last days you worked your way home. You went over down, I think, south of Louisville. So I did get to see you for maybe 5 minutes. And I think you even jaunted across the river up into Ohio to do one job. Did you happen to get over to your farm that you have in Ohio?
No, I wasn't that far from it. I think we've talked about it on the podcast before that I own about 155-acre property there in Pike County, Ohio, and I did not get there, Terry. Actually, I'm going to end up trying to sell that property because in the 2 seasons that I've owned that place, I've only got over there to hunt, I think, 2 different days. So 2 days in 2 seasons. It's just, I'm so busy and it's so far away from home. And the other thing is I'd like to build a new home here. My wife's been waiting on me to build a new home for 30-some years. And I think she's earned it by now. She's been very patient with me and allowed me to chase my dreams. And I think I'm going to sell that Ohio property and build a house. So,
but you have that completely basically turnnkeyed to hunt, though. You all put a lot of work in that thing.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Within a week after, I own it with a partner who he also lives out of state. He lives in West Virginia, and we came in, and within a week of closing on the property a couple summers ago, brought in heavy equipment, dozers and such, and we cleared 14 acres, one big T-shaped food plot that I laid out, 14-acre food plot, and then we brought in some 360 hunting blinds and set them up. We got 3 big redneck feeders. It's an area that's pretty heavily wooded and not much ag, and the whole approach I took to that property is I want to have food there for these deer 365 days a year, right in the heart of this property. And that 14-acre food plot with 3 big feeders around it has certainly done that. Also got a couple of ladder stands in place. So a person could buy that and go hunt it today. There's no scouting. There's no, deciding where your stands are going to be. I mean, you could climb up in a 360 blind today and be overlooking 14 acres of real world soybeans. And, I gave Steve Shields, it's about an hour from his house, so it's kind of in his neighborhood. And I gave him permission to go hunt it. And he's been there, I don't know, just a few times, handful of times. But the other day he went, and the weather was kind of cold, and he told me there was about 30 deer in that food plot. And there's some nice bucks there too. I mean, that place is going to produce some good bucks, but it's just, it's a 6-7 hour drive from my house. I just don't have time to put into it.
Yeah, that's why I don't hunt any farther away than what I do. It's the way we hunt and we watch that weather so close. That's the low-hanging fruit with me coming to Illinois, is I can be at one of the farms that I hunt in 3 hours from my house. So, I mean, I've gone up and back and hunted there before. So, if somebody wants to learn more about that, I know you're getting a ton of messages. So tell them what they need to do if they'd be interested in talking more with you about that property.
If you are interested, just go to my website, higginsoutdoors.com, and my email address is on there. Just send me an email, and I'd be glad to send you details. But
maybe put the first couple words of the email as Ohio property or something. That way it jumps out at him as he's skimming through all of his messages. So with that, we'll talk a little bit later. I know people, I got a couple good feedback. They're excited to hear about your Christmas ideas, and we'll talk about the giveaways at the end. But let's break out to the buyafarm.com property of the week.
Buyafarm.com is your source for farm, recreational properties, rural homes, and more. Now, here is Don Higgins with this week's featured property.
All right, this week's featured property is 122 acres in Pope County, Illinois. It's near the town of Golconda. Of this 122 acres, approximately 77 acres of this is in cropland. It's a very, it's not like it's all a wooded area and then a big crop field. The wooded area is kind of interspersed within the crop fields, and it looks like it's just got a world of potential for someone to set it up. It's almost a blank canvas where, a landowner could go in and sign up for the CRP program and get some good income and turn this into a great hunting property. There's already 3 ponds on the property. It's got excellent road frontage along one side, but the mineral rights are included. There's even a fence around the property, I guess. But if you go to the buyafarm.com website and look for 122 acres in Pope County, Illinois, it's one that seems to be priced right. And with the income, 77 acres of this is going to produce some income, whether through CRP or if you go ahead and farm it or whatever. But if you're interested, give Wayne Keller a call. Wayne's number is 618-407-1679, and I'm sure Wayne would be happy to show it to you.
All right. So I won't lie, I was pretty disengaged during that segment because I was texting my attorney about the cows being out. So, but I do know that Wayne has this property, and I know their business is really, really good right now. I know that people are looking for properties. But the thing that BuyAfarm does a great job of is on their website giving detailed descriptions of all of these different properties that you're looking at. And even if you're not looking at one necessarily for all hunting, make sure you go check out their website or their Facebook page. They do a good job with it. So I think Wayne Keller has this property. So if you're interested, reach out or go to their website. So I'm back dialed in, Don. I apologize about that, but my blood pressure's up just a little bit right now. So
it's probably a good thing we're recording this podcast, or you'd be running out the door with a rifle.
I cannot confirm or deny that, because then I would have potentially about 100,000 listeners that might be getting a deposition. So I'm not happy. So only in this country can you break the law, damage someone else's property, and be the victim. Claim you're the victim. So I'll leave it at that, but we'll get it straightened out. So,
We better move on to submitted questions.
Yeah,
so you got time to calm down.
That's all right. We'll be all right. So what's our first one tonight?
The first one comes from Tyler Steenbuck from Pella, Wisconsin. Tyler says, "Hey, Don, love the podcast and congrats on Mel. What an awesome story. My father owns a 70-acre thick cedar swamp that is surrounded by ag fields. I have always been reluctant to hunt anything but the edges of the swamp in fear of pushing deer out. Do you have any advice for hunters who own swampland not connected to a hardwoods? Or have you had any success hunting swampland? Thank you for your time and keep up the podcast. It helps anyone who listens. God bless. P.S. I recently threw out my mechanical broadheads." Folks, I did not make that up. I promise you, I did not make that up. He did say that. Tyler, thank you, especially for that last sentence. So talking, I don't have any experience hunting swamps, Tyler, just to be totally honest, but a swamp is covered, no different really than a thicket. I mean, it's a different kind of cover. But, whether you're talking about a swamp or a thicket or whatever, a CRP field, when you go stomping out into the middle of it, you're putting pressure on the deer that live there. And that's the worst thing you can do. You're doing things right by staying on the edges. If there's deer in there, they're going to work those edges. Deer are edge creatures anyway. So, my advice to you is you're doing everything right. Just make sure that you're playing the wind. And, as long as those deer are in that swamp and you're between them and their food, you've got a chance. It's just a matter of playing your cards right and picking and choosing when you hunt based on weather fronts and wind direction.
Yeah, I know that there's a lot of guys that have to hunt swamp in Michigan and Wisconsin. I know the guys down in like Mississippi and Louisiana have to hunt a lot of swamp. But I think the thing that I take for granted sometimes, and I know you do because Steve's always telling you to, expand on comments that you make that we take for granted. One of the things that I think really clicks when people see your masterclass is how you've created and manipulated the cover and the location of the food so that you can access the edges that Tyler is talking about from different wind directions. And that's what makes some properties just the graceland of deer hunting properties. It doesn't mean others can't be good. I think my farm right now with a cow in the food plot is a good farm, but I can't hunt it with two different wind directions. I just have to stay back. Your farm that you've created and worked 30 some years for, the unbelievable thing about that, how you've set that up, is that you can hunt that with any wind direction based on how you have access and can go around. But that came from you manipulating the cover and the food and having spots to get in between them. So I think
right.
Tyler's on the right spot. It's just what makes a good property an unbelievable property is how many of those spots you can hunt that you can get to from the different directions with the wind.
Right.
And if you do that and approach it and leave that core, you'll hold deer. So.
Yep. All right. Well, we appreciate your question, Tyler. Get you a T-shirt as soon as we have them back in stock. We're out of several sizes, but so anybody that hasn't got their T-shirt yet, don't give up on us. They're coming.
I got a question.
They'll be here this week.
I got a question. I had two people ask me, can you actually buy them?
Yeah, the T-shirts are for sale on my website.
Okay. So when they come back in stock, you can do that?
Yep.
Okay. I meant to ask you that.
All right. Okay.
What's our next question?
Next one's from Jared Miller from Falmouth, Kentucky, down your way. That's
close to me again. We had one from last week close to me.
Yeah, we did. Must be all your buddies writing questions about cows. This isn't a cow question.
I don't know Jared, but hopefully I'll get to meet him sometime.
Yeah. Maybe he works at the local slaughterhouse and you can take him some beef. Jared says, Don, I have a two-part question. On a recent podcast, Terry mentioned a cedar thicket being great thermal cover. Can you elaborate on this? You want to elaborate on that, Terry?
Sure. You want to finish the question, or you want me to stop there?
I guess I'd go ahead and read the rest of it.
Okay.
It says, in my area, a cedar thicket is usually so thick there is no sunlight getting to the ground. From what I can see, there is no reason for the deer to use these areas. As I crouch down, I can see several yards under the cedars. Can you explain what good thermal cover is? Also, I've seen people clear a cedar thicket, then use prescribed fire to burn the area. Do you use fire to enhance native growth? Thanks, Jared. I'll let you take that one, Terry, because that's right up. That's more in your neighborhood than it is mine.
Yeah. Cedars in our area, and my ground lays probably very similar to Jared's. If Jared's is probably even more hilly than I am if he's over in Falmouth. But usually what happens is old cattle pastures or just old wood lots grow up with cedars really bad here, and we're really hilly. And the tops of the ridges historically were farmed for tobacco, and then around the perimeter of the tobacco field, people would graze cattle. And as that grew up, the cedars grow faster than the hardwoods, so these cedars, will overtake everything. For my property, those cedars are on a hillside on the opposite side of the predominant wind. So as that wind comes from southwest, west, and even northwest, those cedars are on the opposite side of that hill, and those deer on my property absolutely go in there, and it's some of the best cover I have. I guess from a scientific standpoint, is that really considered thermal as related to maybe switchgrass? You might have to answer that, because I might have used the wrong terminology on what thermal is. But the way the wind blows on my farm, I have left cedars on the side of the hill where the wind basically blows up, and they'll get in up underneath of those cedars in bed. And I've had really good luck with it. But at the same time, cedars will overtake your property like nobody's business if you don't keep them in check. I actually had a buddy of mine bring in a big machine this year on one of the sections, and we cut everything down, and with one of those big mulching heads. And bush hogs to get everything cleaned off, because I don't want it overtaking the farm. So I do not burn here in Kentucky because I'm not confident on the sides of these hills I could control a burn like we can up when we burn your switchgrass. So because of how that wind blows on the side of these big hills, I would be really, really worried about catching the whole woods on fire by the way my ground lays. So I do not do a prescribed burn here, but I have taken in equipment and chewed up thickets in areas that I don't want it. I'm in a process right now of moving some of the bedding area on my property, so I'm letting some grow up in a different spot away from pressure where I can hunt them better than where it was in the past. So I don't know if I answered Jared's question, and you can elaborate on whether what I talked about would technically be considered thermal cover or just cover.
Well, thermal cover is cover that offers deer protection from the elements, the weather. It's where they can, get out of the wind, and it's warmer for them, in the wintertime. One thing about cedars that's kind of interesting is that they give off heat. And if you've got a trail camera and it's facing a cedar tree on a sunny day, and the wind is blowing that cedar tree, it'll set off your trail camera because it's heat in motion. Mm-hmm. Kind of interesting thing about cedars. But as far as prescribed burns and such, they've got their place for sure. As Terry mentioned, I do it with my native grass fields. And what the purpose of the burn is, it removes undesirable plants and stimulates desirable plants. So in a native grass field, it'll stimulate those grasses while burning up the weeds and weed seed, and kind of controlling that. There's in a lot of areas, they'll use a prescribed burn in a wooded area, and it'll burn up some undesirable tree saplings that are small while stimulating other tree species such as some oaks. So I'm not an expert on prescribed burns by any means, but I do know they have their place in habitat management.
I prefer that people know what they're doing a little bit before they just wing it.
Right.
Having good fire breaks in and that kind of stuff, you can get yourself in trouble really quick, not knowing what you're doing as part of a prescribed burn. So, hey, Jared, shoot me a message if I didn't answer, and if worse comes to worse and you're around, maybe this winter I can show you what I'm talking about on my farm. But I like cedars on the backside of predominant winds. I hold a lot of deer on my property that way. So, hope that helps.
Yep. Thanks for your question, Jared. T-shirt coming your way as well. So the last question we have on this episode is from Hayden Beagle from Wisconsin Rapids, Wisconsin. Hayden says, "Hello, Don. Would first like to congratulate you on your success in the outdoors and everything else. I have listened to all YouTube videos and podcasts and have learned a lot. I'm a married 26-year-old entrepreneur looking to make a land purchase in the near future. If you could do it all over again and start with a clean slate, where would you start? Would you purchase one big farm, purchase multiple smaller farms? What state would you go to? Secondly, once you get that farm, what would be the first things you would do? Put it into CRP programs, clear cut and plant valuable trees to harvest in 30 years? Leave all options on the table. Remember, I'm young and want to leverage myself long term for the optimal outcome. Lastly, I urge you to keep up the good work and continue to be a man of faith. In today's era, people are afraid about being politically correct. Keep speaking from the heart." Well, Hayden, I can tell you on that last part, you're never going to have to worry about me being politically correct. Just ask anybody that knows me. And I'm not going to be too worried about offending others either. So hang with us. We won't disappoint you there. Let me go back here.
And we can tell you're not a salesman because you didn't stop right in the middle of this and say, "Hey, I got a property for sale in Ohio."
There you go.
A salesman would have stopped right there and tried to close the deal. But
yep.
But I know that's not you.
Says if I could do it over again and start with a clean slate, where would you start? Would you purchase one big farm, purchase multiple smaller farms? What state would you go to? Well, let's start with the state. As we explained earlier in this podcast, I own a property out of state in Ohio. I also own a property here in Illinois where I live. I can tell you that I would not buy a property out of state to start with. I would start close to home. Just my personal advice. You're going to get a lot more use out of a property the closer it is to your home. So I would start close to home. Purchase one big farm or multiple smaller farms. That depends on your goal. I mean, if your goal is to kill big bucks, it's not the size of the farm, but it's how the farm lays out and what's around it that you want to be looking for. I've said before, if I had the finances to purchase 400 acres, instead of buying one 400-acre farm, I'd go out and buy 5 80s or something like that, 5 different 80-acre tracts, as long as those 80-acre tracts laid out good. And the reason I say that is because I believe with the right 80 in a particular neighborhood, I can have the biggest bucks in the neighborhood staying on my 80 acres. And if they're staying on 80 versus 400, they're a whole lot easier to kill. Every time you get in your stand, you're going to be a lot closer to them than if they're scattered over 400. So I like the idea of having multiple smaller farms. However, there's advantages to big farms. And again, it comes down to your goals. Are you wanting to produce income for the future? You're a young guy. And you're talking about one of the suggestions you made was planting valuable trees to harvest in 30 years. I'll tell you what, if I was in my 20s like you are, I would be planting a grove of walnut trees and just for harvest for your retirement income. I wish I would have done that when I was in my 20s. But with walnut trees, you're looking at about 50 years from planting to harvest. So, at 26 years old, you had 50 years out, you're going to be 76. You don't want to waste any time. You need to be doing it right away if you're going to do it. But that's a very long-term commitment. There's no income whatsoever for all those years. Although you can do things like hunt on it and enjoy the property, but you're not going to have any income. But your income's all going to come at the end. So I don't know. What I would do would depend on your goals. If it's simply deer hunting, that's going to be a whole lot different than if you want income, if you want to raise your family there, or live off the land, so to speak, by raising the meat you're going to eat through livestock or whatever. So it's kind of I don't want to dodge your question, Hayden, but it's really kind of hard to say when I don't know what your goals are.
You're at a different point too in your hunting career, and tell me if I'm speaking out of turn here. The caliber of bucks that you're going after and looking for every year also comes into play a little bit with what you said about having multiple tracks. To have one property produce world-class whitetail every single year is pretty tough. They're so rare. So having multiple properties spread out, usually if they're the right properties in the right area, you usually got a target buck somewhere that you're chasing, or a couple, right? If you're talking about one property, there'll be years where there's not going to be something to shoot, which we've already talked about on this podcast will probably be your spot, your home farm next year. We really don't know that there's going to be, at least anything we know about yet, anything there. So to further elaborate a little bit on what your goals are, I think it depends a lot on what's the point in your career are you at? Are you looking for 190 and 200 inch deer every single year? That's going to be tough to do on a single property. You've been managing your home farm for 30 years and you don't have that every year.
And never will.
Yeah.
So,
but can you buy a 300-400 acre and manage it if it's in the right spot to have 5-year-old plus mature bucks to hunt every year? I do think you can do that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
The other thing I would say is to take into consideration, you mentioned it very briefly, but speaking as an out-of-state hunter, only 3 to 4 hours away, it is extremely hard for me to manage and do habitat on those properties even 3 hours away.
Right.
So having them at home where you can run over and work for a couple hours after work, it's night and day difference. I mean, there's so much stuff that I want to do in Illinois on the farms that I hunt, and I just, it's so hard to work the time in. And then also look is like, I know one of the things of why we go to Illinois, which drives Don nuts with the local DNRs there, is how many buck tags you get. If you're looking at purchasing a piece of property in Ohio, Indiana, or Kentucky versus Illinois, and I don't know what the game laws are in Wisconsin, you pay that farm payment, you do all that habitat work, and in Ohio, Indiana, and Kentucky, you're allowed $1. So it's you have one opportunity and then you're done once you shoot something. The nice thing about the states that manage a little bit different, good or bad, and in Don's case he's going to say it's bad because he doesn't want out-of-staters to get $2. But it's just the facts. Part of the financial decision you have to make is Iowa. I think you have to be in Iowa. I think you have to be a resident of Iowa. I don't think you can just own property there and get the amount of deer. I think they might be residents there might be even be able to kill 3, if I'm not mistaken. I might be mistaken.
I think they can, especially if they're a landowner. I think one of them might have to be a landowner tag or something. But
so it just the reason me saying that is it all just depends on your goals. What do you want out of it? So,
right.
Good
That's
question.
What it really boils down to. Yep. So we appreciate your question, Hayden, and you'll be getting a T-shirt as well. So. That wraps up the listener submitted questions this week. Terry, where do we go from here?
Well, there's one thing that we kind of forgot to talk about, and that is the series this month on how to make a good spot better. And I kind of saved it for the end because it doesn't take a really long explanation on this, but I want you to go into one of the things that you've taught me a long time ago is when you do your habitat projects, and if possible, when you hang your stands. And that is in January, February, after the season's over. That's when we try to trim our shooting lanes back as much as we can. And we've talked about it a little bit, but when we're talking about hanging stands a year in advance, how can we protect our tree stand from not having rotting straps and rusted cables?
Well, on my stands, I replace all the straps with chains. In fact, I just buy the chain in bulk, and I'll bolt it onto the stand and wrap that chain around the tree, and there's no strap. My life is never dependent on a strap. I use a chain. Sometimes I'll use a chain and a strap. I'll use the chain basically to hold the stand in place, and then a ratchet strap or a strap to tighten that platform against the tree. But that strap is not holding my weight. Use a chain for that, but
and
I've
even seen you replace the cables down to the platform with
Yep.
a chain.
Yeah, that cable that goes down to the platform is probably the first thing to give away on a stand that's left out in the weather. The moisture get in around that cable clamp and rust away that cable over time. So I'll take those cables off and replace those with a lighter chain, and you just take away that risk of the stand giving away. But
So I don't want to.
those,
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, getting those stands ready in the winter months, right after season closes and before spring green up, that can take and make a good stand a great stand, because you're not slipping in there right before you're going to hunt it. Trimming shooting lanes and things like that. You get it all done. You can go in with a chainsaw, fire up that gas chainsaw, cut down trees, a foot in diameter, get them out of your way. Whatever you need to do, get her done, and then get out. And by the time fall rolls around, the deer forgot you was ever there.
So, I don't want to diminish. We're still going to do this every week through December, but this one I just knew wouldn't take. And one of the things I would really like, I've talked to Steve Shields about, and one of the videos that Don's going to put on his YouTube channel is actually show this process, because I think a lot of people have curiosity about how to put these things in a chain, or put a chain up around the back of a tree stand. I know with the case of our lone wolves, we have to bore out a little bitty hole on the aluminum extrusion riser and to get a bolt through it. He's taking that chain around a fork in a tree. If there's no fork in a tree, sometimes I've seen you actually screw a lag bolt in the back and take the chain over the top of the lag bolt, just so that there's that support there with that tree that tree stand being in the tree. And I know that our listeners, laugh because Lone Wolf is a partner of ours. And Don and I, we have hung stands during season. So, I mean, it's not like we've never done it. I mean, you always have to adapt. And, we've hung stands just before season before. But if we can have that done and that spot completely, blocked off and nothing's been in there boogering those deer, we're going to do that every time. The thing I do like about the Lone Wolf tree stands is it's that cast aluminum components that you don't have to worry about those welds breaking on that really cheap steel of tree stands. So most people are buying the Lone Wolf tree stands because they're kind of more run and gun or taking a stand in, each time they hunt and trying to be stealthy. We're a little bit different when it comes to that, but the design and the quality and the materials, when you look at a cast aluminum frame, is a whole lot more beneficial to how we're doing it also.
Yep.
So
sure.
how to make a good spot better, get your habitat and get your stands hung as soon as that season is over. But at the same time, you have to take your precautions to make sure that it's safe for a year later.
Yep.
So speaking of that, we told everybody, and I got a lot of comments about it, that last minute Christmas ideas from Don Higgins. I'm actually excited to hear this because I honestly have no idea what you're going to come up with.
Didn't you have a list too?
Yeah, I got one, but we'll I don't care about mine, but I'm curious to listen to yours here. Are we going to go? How many do you have? You got 4 or 5?
I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
All right, we're going to trade them off, or you just want to go?
Trade them off.
All right, you go first.
We were just talking about lone wolf tree stands, and on my Christmas list, lone wolf assault with a set of sticks. I like to have those around. You never know when you're going to run into a situation during the season where you need to throw a stand up quick and quiet. Maybe you're hunting public ground, whatever. Nothing beats that lone wolf stand and sticks.
Yeah, that's a little bit that would be one of the higher gift ideas. We're going to have a couple different ones, and that might even come in handy because you're going to, I think, focus a little bit on some more public next year that we've talked about before. So,
yep.
Go ahead and go through your list. We'll see what kind of time we got. I want to get through yours.
Okay. The next item on my list would be ammo.
That's a great idea. Yeah, that's a great idea.
And there's a good chance we may need her, folks. So I got 223 ammo and 9mm ammo, two very common calibers, and you can never have enough of it. Next thing on my list would be an OnX subscription. OnX Hunt is an app that I've got on my phone. It comes in handy, especially on these consulting jobs when I'm out of state. It's got the property lines drawn in. It's got the landowner's name and contact info if you're looking for hunting permission. That OnX subscription comes in handy. After that, Steel battery-operated pruning saw. My good friend Terry bought me one of those a few months ago and gave it to me as a gift, and I really appreciate it. And I got a chance to use it here not long ago, doing a little pruning work. And let me tell you, that thing is handy. It's got a little chainsaw chain on it, and the battery is so small I couldn't believe that battery would cut anything. And but I'm telling you what, I mean, I used it for quite a bit, and it was still had plenty of power. I'm not sure how long it would run on that battery, but that little steel battery pruning saw would be a great gift.
Yeah, they make them. They make them now. I think if you're a DeWalt or a Milwaukee cordless drill guy, I think both of those companies now have them too. So they're small and they're a little bit bigger, but I think you could, like, if you had them in, you could put them in your backpack for when you went in and did habitat work and stuff. But they, I got you one, and there was a shortage of them for a while, and my local steel dealer got 4 of them in, and I bought all 4. I gave both my neighbors wanted one, so we cleaned the shelf when they got in stock.
Yeah, that was a great gift, and I really appreciate it, Terry. Thank you.
Welcome.
One last gift on my list. Anybody want to guess what it is? Terry, what do you think?
I know it's not mechanical broadheads. I don't know what it's going to be.
Nope. It's broadheads. If you've got someone on your Christmas list that shoots mechanical broadheads, get them some real broadheads so they can throw them things away. And that's all I'm saying. I'll leave it at that.
Well, I actually had a couple similar to what you had. I had a battery-operated pruning or pole saw. Some of those pole saws that run off the batteries are pretty handy. I had that on there. Some of the simpler stuff that I think is handy is a surgical hunting knife, like a Havalon or something that uses a surgical knife. If you're, I use them for skinning even, but you can replace the blades on them. and they're really, really good for extracting those two front teeth if you're aging your deer before you take it to the taxidermist. And then one little thing that I actually first saw this from you, Don, and you don't even know this. Like 16 years ago, me and Patrick and Brian came up to your place, and I don't know what we were doing, and you had your little camo tote on the front rack of your four-wheeler, and you had like a piece of indoor-outdoor carpet that you would take out when you changed and put your camo on out in front of it. I bet you're surprised I even remember this.
I do, because I don't do that anymore. I used to.
Yeah. So I remembered that this year when I got hurt, it was really, really hard. You know, when I would drive to the farm or I would go out of state, it was really difficult for me to get in and out of shoes and boots at the back of the truck. And I remembered you having that carpet, and I went to the Home Depot and got one of those little rubber welcome mats that's got the little ledges on it. And I keep that in the back of my truck, and I wear slip-on muck shoes now. And I'm telling you, even though I'm not hurt anymore, that was a game changer for me. So if you're looking for a cheap gift, some type of welcome mat or boot mat that you would put inside of your house to not track in is perfect for putting in the back of your truck and changing and not getting your socks and shoes and everything all muddy, and being able to stay somewhat clean while you slip your shoes off when you go hunting. So, but yeah, I remember that from years and years and years ago.
I did that for a long time. I don't know why I ever stopped.
So, but yeah, that's a cheap present that you can get somebody or ask for, and then some. We tried to give some different examples of smaller things and bigger things. So, hope that helps. But we know that Don does not want packages of mechanical broadheads shipped to his house. But
go right to the trash.
Yeah. In all seriousness, though, I'm really excited to hear what our listeners want to hear. If they want to hear this debate that we talked about, we'll try to provide that kind of content. If not, then we'll move on and try to keep helping you in other ways. But you can rest assured that this podcast is going to do its best to serve the hunting community, not the hunting industry. The products that we talk about are what we represent or what we really believe in. But we do appreciate those companies who do help us provide this platform for you. So the last thing on the agenda tonight is to talk about the giveaway. And I've failed you. Part of my job with this podcast is to kind of tee up different topics. And we have not explained very well in a couple episodes how you're choosing the winner of this giveaway. So can you walk everybody through that to where they know what you have to do in order to be entered into a free attendance pass to a master class?
Yeah, and it's going to be too late after tonight, but we selected the winners. They had to like the Higgins Outdoors Facebook page, and they had to subscribe to the Chasing Giants YouTube channel. So when they done both of those, they were qualified for this drawing for free attendance at each of the master classes. And the previous two episodes, we drew for each of the first two classes, and we're going to announce the winner now for the March 27th class.
Okay. And
that winner is Joel Trovillion from Grantsburg, Illinois. I hope I said your last name right, Joel, but Joel, Trovilllion from Grantsburg, Illinois.
All right, fantastic.
Yep, I'll be sending you a message through social media and letting you know that you're the winner and can attend that March 27th class for free.
Yeah, one of the things that Don and I have had to learn through this venture is the easy way to do contests. And I think from now on we'll probably do a different way to enter. That way it's easier for you guys and it's easier for us to track. But like I said, sometimes we just have to admit that Don and I are learning as we go. I got a lot of feedback from I'm going to have to do some type of poll or something because it split about 50-50 when I said we were going to destroy the bottom 2 cell cameras in the test that I'm aggravated with. Half the people want to see it shot at 500 yards with a muzzleloader, and half of them want to see a mechanical broadhead bounce off the face of it. And I'm intrigued to both, so we might have to do one of each. So we'll have to see how that goes. So
sounds like a plan.
All right, well, they're going to wrap this up on episode 42. Do you have anything else to talk about? We want to make sure the people who haven't tagged out keep their chin up. I know I got a Kentucky tag that I still have, and then I'm going to be coming back up to bow hunt in Illinois. So it's just a waiting game to get the right weather to get over that food, right?
Yeah, that's for sure. Be watching the weather, and you see that winter storm coming. That's what you want to see if you still got a tag to fill.
All right. Well, if that's it, then we'll sign off. Again, going back to we're just completely humbled and honored that you guys have supported the show enough that we're a top 20 show, and we hope we keep that rolling and giving you guys content where you're going to want to keep listening. So I really appreciate it as Don takes us out. Thanks a lot.
So we want to thank our sponsors, buyafarm.com, 360 Hunting Blinds, Quiet Cat, Lone Wolf Tree Stands, Matthews Archery, Vortex Optics, and Real World Wildlife Products. Appreciate your support, everyone. See you next time.